how many houses Daniel and I have sold in the last year?
Do you want me to?
Yeah, I think
Not individual. You can maybe just say
no, as both. Between the two of them, they've sold over 400 houses last year.
I think we're now live.
Yeah.
We're live.
I think we're live officially. So we can wait a second just to let people kind of join us.
I'm gonna get the Facebook Live going here. How do I? The crap did I?
We have 64 participants watching us right now. If you guys are watching, we're just gonna get the live feed going, and then we'll wait for more people to jump on, and then we'll start the live event. So just sit tight, have some patience, and then we'll dive in. All right, we got 75 people joining us right now, and so we'll give it another minute, Ben, and then we'll jump in. I know we want to coordinate to it, watch parties as well. So if anybody's on Facebook Live right now and wants to start a watch party, feel free to do that on your own pages. I know my team is working on doing that. Aaron's team's working on doing that. Feel free to do that. Okay,
I think
we're good, guys. We have 77 people on the call right now, and I think we're ready to go.
Go ahead and start, Ben. Is Ben gone?
I think you might have had a connection issue. Bear with us, everybody, as we're kind of going through this together.
As we get Ben Balsbaugh on the call. There you go. He's back. He's back.
Wow. That was a close call.
So we got 81 people on the call right now.
You guys ready?
Yeah, we're ready. Let's roll. I think we're good. Okay, cool.
All right, guys. Thanks for everybody for joining us. This is a webinar on the state of the market here in the Central Valley, the state of the real estate market, and things are changing so rapidly, and that's kind of why we're doing this. So I want to say that as of today, April 1st, what we're going to chat about is accurate. Things could change tomorrow. So just want you to be aware that as of today, this is what we're going to be chatting about and what we know. We have some highly successful people here. We have Sondra Yates from Scenic Funding, and she's been doing loans for 22 years. So it's not her first rodeo. We got Aaron West. He's been in real estate for 15 years. And we have Daniel and Andy Del Real, and Daniel's been in the market for 16 years and Andy for 14 years. And between them, they've sold around 400 homes in the last 12 months. So we got some highly successful people. And I purposely waited on Daniel and Andy because they're the ones who kind of spearheaded this and wanted to do a webinar to educate and to inform you all of what they're seeing, and brought in Aaron and Sondra. And so we're really excited. We got some great minds, and Daniel is going to kick it off talking about what he's seeing in the current marketplace and has some cool graphs to go over with you. Daniel?
All right. Hey, can everybody hear me?
Mm-hmm.
Cool. So, we had several conversations.
I'm sorry,
yes,
Daniel. I'm going to be monitoring Facebook Live, by the way, for questions. So if you guys have questions, pop them up there. Also on Zoom, if you have questions, pop them in there, and I'll be monitoring those to ask these folks. Sorry, Daniel, go ahead.
All right. So I think the big thing that we're we've been talking about the last couple of weeks is just the current state of the market, you know? So give me a quick second, let me mute my phone here. So, and I wanted to address that first before we start like the whole question and answer thing. You know, we've been answering a lot of questions for our clients and kind of dealing with a lot of the turbulence that's kind of come through the real estate market through just simply through COVID-19. We wanted to start off with just initially just check what's the current state and health of the market. Like, how do we look like right now? Because that's a big question we're getting from a lot of sellers, buyers, or just agents, or a lot of the conversations we're having, you know, agents are having with one another. Like, how does the market look like? So I wanted to talk about that, and I wanted to show everybody and share everybody some graphs, and then just open it up for questions. So let's go ahead and do that right now. So I'm going to share my screen. So let me know if you could actually see the screen share. So initially you're going to see, here you go. Let's do this here. All right. Can everybody see this?
Mm-hmm.
Okay. So the big question we're getting is what's the current state of the market? So what you guys are seeing right here is the trends graphic report. So these are the trends and numbers through the real list. So the metro list, all the sales that we do in Stanislaus, San Joaquin County are tracked through this here. So that's exactly what you're seeing right here. So you're going to see like homes that are for sale. If you see the mouse hovering around this lighter green graph, and you'll notice the inventory levels, the amount of properties that have sold, and the pending trend. And you notice that the current state of the market and the pressure that a lot of buyers have been seeing and the activity that a lot of the sellers have been seeing is that it's been a seller's market for some time now. And you could see that by the confirmation of that by seeing the trend of the amount of homes on the market actually drop down. Currently, we have 505 homes on the market in Stanislaus County, and which was confirmed even last month. I think we had the exact same amount of homes in January than we did in February. We're waiting to see how many homes in March. Those numbers aren't out yet. And if you see San Joaquin County, you see basically a mirror match. You see inventories dropping down where it's at 779. So let me go back to, let me see here. So then if we go back to the big question that people are saying, hey, what's going on with the current state of the market? Like, is it 2008? We hear a lot of 2008. Is this 2008? Is this going to be a housing crash? Like, people are freaking out, like the market's down, 30%, in Wall Street, and they're concerned with what's going to happen with our real estate market. And even though we can't predict the future, but what we can do is actually just look at what the current state is right now and just make as best decisions with real data right now, and know that it could change daily. So we all know what 2008 looked like. Like we know what it felt like. Like if you were in the business in 2008, or if you were buying or selling a house, or if you had a parent, if older in age, what 2008 felt like. It was really, really bad, Now, even though we know how it felt like, I want to show you guys what it actually looked like. So if you go down here in the real trend graphic, you'll see this, I could go back all the way to 2008. And so the real crash initiated in 2006, but the real crash of the stock market was in September, October. So if we look back to those numbers right now, which you see, say we go from here, let's see, August through September. So the numbers are from June 2007 to September of. So if I show the charts here, you'll see, give me a second here. I got something that popped up on my screen. Can you guys see this chart right here?
Mm-hmm.
Can you see the chart? Yeah. Okay.
Something's going on with your audio,
though,
Daniel.
Where the inventory levels were in 2008. So the 2008 was a housing-led crash. So that the economy came down on itself because mostly it was led by housing. Because you saw inventory levels that were much higher. So if you remember the chart beforehand, we had 505 homes on the market as of last month. In January, we're at 505. If you look back at the chart of the housing crash in 2008, we peaked out at 4,521 houses for sale. So of course it was an inventory issue. So it was a supply issue. There was an oversupply. And as soon as we had some turbulence in the stock market, people lost jobs, and then everything kind of imploded. But it was a housing-led crash and bubble. So what you see here is you see more of a you see a bigger change in the actual amount of homes that are for sale. So 4,521 compared to, let's go back to San Joaquin County, and you'll see the same numbers here. You see 6,117 was their peak. So even if I go back to 2004, 5, 6, 7, 8, the peak amount of homes for sale in San Joaquin County was 6,117 compared to Stanislaus, which was 4521. So if I bring you back to the current state of the market, so where we're at right now, you see it's a way different picture. So inventory levels are not anywhere near where they were back when the housing market crashed. So the biggest misconception people have is like, okay, is the market going to start crashing right away? Is it going to correct itself right away? Well, it's all supply and demand. So right now the supply is very, very low. And I looked back and actually geeked out on the numbers a bit more. And I went back every single year back to 2004, which is where the trend graphics really started picking up on all this data. And 505 listings is confirmed twice, is the lowest amount of inventory we had in Stanislaus County over the 16 years of tracking these numbers. And I could bet if you go back even 18 years to maybe even 20 years, it's as low as inventory as we've had. So even though we don't know what's going to happen in the future right now, just looking at the inventory, what I could see in real-time data, we're poised better right now to stomach a slowdown, or more like almost a stop or a pause in the current market right now. So anyway, so I wanted to address that right away. Now we could see this with inventory levels as well. If we quickly look at inventory levels, we have 1.5 months of inventory left. So what that means is if no home gets listed from today and on, it takes about 1.5 months, the absorption rate, in order to be able to sell everything that's on the market. If we compare that to 2008 levels, just to address again that question that we get, is this similar to what happened in 2008? Let me get the same one here. This is not the right one. Okay. You'll see that the inventory levels peaked out at over 20 months of inventory, right? 21 months of inventory. So very big difference. So anyways, I just wanted to touch base on that. So I don't know if Aaron, Andy, or Sondra or Ben want to touch base on any of that, but when it comes down to the question of the market, like how is it looking right now? What are inventory levels doing right now? It's actually much lower than it was, and it's dramatically different than what it was in 2008. And I know if I'm seeing this, Aaron's seeing this, or anybody else, I know we have about 40% of the listeners right now are in the real estate business. And I know if I'm feeling it, they're getting a lot of the same thing. Last week, personally, the Del Oro Group, we're going to put 10 homes on the market, and only 2 made it on. So we're having more and more clients that are deciding not to put their home on the market. And we're also sometimes even advising clients not to put their home on the market. So if we're seeing this, I know that Aaron's seeing the same thing and everybody else is. So looking forward, I almost see an inventory decrease going into March or April. I'll stop sharing my screen here, Aaron, and if anybody else wants to say anything about that.
I think that at the core, what we're finding is, and this is nationwide, Daniel and I both have a lot of relationships with agents all over the country, and brokers and business owners all over the country. They're all experiencing a housing shortage. So right now we are in probably the most fundamentally sound real estate market that we've had in 30 years. One of the 10 key industries when they did the shelter in place was real estate construction. And the reason for that is that we're in a housing shortage. And they understand that there are more people wanting to buy housing and get into houses than there are sellers out there. So as far as like there being a huge drop off, the only time you really see a huge drop off is when there's an oversupply of homes. I was talking to a client the other day, and this kind of illustration kind of came up where, the last couple of years and where we are today is like a woman going to a dance. And the market that we've been in is like a woman going to a dance in Alaska, where there's 50 guys to every woman. All they had to do was show up and the house gets sold. Even if the market makes a shift to more homes on the market, a normal market is considered 5 to 6 months worth of inventory. That's what's considered normal. We've been under a month to 2 months for probably 2 years right now. So even if this market does make a shift a little bit and we do get more people selling, we're not heading towards a crash. It would take a huge amount of homes showing up on the market for there to be a crash. We're going to be heading to what most would consider to be a normal market.
Andy, are people still listing homes, and what advice are you giving to sellers, and given the coronavirus and what we're facing right now? What are you seeing day to day?
So it's different case by case, in my opinion. It's really going to depend on if the property is vacant or not. I know for the most part, sellers that we've worked with, I know Daniel kind of touched bases on, we had about 10 houses that were going to hit the market, and really only 2 of them did. Those houses were vacant. So the houses that are currently vacant at the moment, sellers are open to putting those on the market because there's less risk of their families, if they occupy the property, contracting the coronavirus or putting them at risk. For the most part, the houses that are occupied, if there's any hesitation or if there's older individuals, like the Governor Newsom recommended anybody over the age of 60, it's better to hold off and wait on putting the house on the market.
Aaron, what are you seeing with buyers? I know you've been working with some buyers, and given the shelter in place and everything we're working with, how do you navigate that? You're muted, Aaron. You're muted.
It's the only time you won't be able to hear me, I promise. It really just depends on people's comfort level. The rates are so low that with us personally, I think when we had our team meeting on Monday, that we were working with 26 buyers, and only 4 of those 26 buyers stepped away from the market because of COVID and what's going on, because rates are so low, they can afford the homes. As long as they haven't run into any kind of adverse, getting their job laid off or those kinds of things, they're all still active buyers. So it's just a matter of, and I don't know when we want to talk about this, is what the steps that we've put into place to make sure that everybody is protected. So Daniel and I, go ahead.
I think that's something that we'll be able. I wanted to share one more thing before you jump into that too, because
Okay.
I've been kind of tracking a few numbers. I'm gonna share my screen again, so you're gonna see my desktop. Let's see here. Can you guys see my screen? Yeah. Okay. So let me get rid of this. So market trend report. So what I've been doing is tracking the market inventory week by week. So I want to show you guys something else before we dive into that, because we asked about the buyers, right? I think, like, personally, if somebody asked, like I was asked this morning with a client, and I said, who's going to be buying, who's going to be selling right now? If somebody needs to move, if somebody needs to sell, and they're going to sell. And if somebody needs to buy, they're going to buy. Now, is there going to be a lower count of transactions because of this pause? Possibly. And you could see right now, even in the trend that I've kind of made here, and sorry, it's not all beautiful, but it was just kind of the way my mind was thinking, is the top number is how many new listings in our county every week. And if you notice that from the beginning of the year, you saw that new listings peaking to about 125 to 153, 155, 131, 120. But the number I want you guys to see is this number down here, which how many homes have been pulled off the market. Again, just kind of confirming that it is going to cause an opposite effect, where we had a low supply level in March in January and February. And again, this is causing, it's going to add to that. So with 45 homes and 56 homes coming off the market over the last 2 weeks, it's almost 3 times as much as we would see that we've seen in any other week prior. So Sellers that need to sell will leave their markets on homes on the market. Buyers that need to buy will be buying. The rates are low enough, and they're getting there's still good properties out there. But I wanted to share that with you guys just because those numbers again confirm, hey, look, what's going to happen with inventory levels. And I think personally next month you're going to actually see an inventory decrease, because as you could see, the homes that are going on the market compared to the ones that are coming off, they're outpacing, from what it was at the beginning of the year. So anyways, I just wanted to share that with you guys, and I'll stop sharing my screen now and let you guys run with it. So,
so before I was so rudely interrupted, I'm just kidding. One of the things that we as real estate agents have to do is we have to figure out how to do real estate safely, and not safely, and making sure that both the buyers and the sellers are all protected. Because at the end of the day, that's more important than anything else. So Daniel and I and Andy have been working together to put together a plan that's as comprehensive as we can make it to try and idiot-proof showing houses and seeing houses. So I'm going to talk about the showing process. Now, there's a lot that's been going on with virtual showings. I know Daniel's team does an amazing job with their virtual walkthrough. Well, we use what's called a Matterport camera, so you're able to get a 3D walkthrough of the property. If you go to either one of our websites or our, to see the homes that we have listed, you can kind of get a feel for what that looks like, so that people can get as close to walking through the house without actually walking through the house. But the reality is that most buyers want to walk through a house before they write an offer on it. And so there's really 3 different sets of people that a plan needs to be created for, to protect them and to make them feel comfortable with the real estate process. You've got the agents that are going to be showing the houses, you've got the seller, and then you have the buyer. So what we've done, and I'm going to go ahead and share my screen here real quick, is working with PMZ. PMZ has come up with a safety guideline. And so every one of our listings, when you're doing the view of the pictures, this is one of the pictures that we put up there, is a guideline for everybody to see of what is a safe way, or as safe a way as possible, to make sure that when you're looking at home or looking at a home or showing a home, these are good guidelines to go by. What we have done at the West Experience and then the Del Real Group is, instead of this, which is really important, we've actually put together checklists that we are giving and putting out for each one of those 3 groups. So the first group is the agent. So when an agent goes to look at a property, or when he finds the property on the MLS, he goes and there's what's called showing instructions to it. And then there's also agent only remarks, and then places that we can put information like disclosures or those kinds of things. So what we're doing is, instead of putting the agent in touch with the sellers, we're having them reach out to us. So it's appointment with agent only. And then in that guideline, it says, see attached documents. And then, and this is the safety guidelines that we have for agents. So what we're requiring them to do is to print this out or put it digitally, show us, put the address down, put the date and time that they're going to be showing the property, their name, and then their signature, so that they understand that these are the expectations for them and their clients before they enter into any of our clients' homes. Now, the California Association of Realtors has also put out some guidelines and some disclosures. So one of them is called the Corona Property Entry Advisory and Declaration. And basically what that's saying is that there's a safe way to do it, and that you acknowledge that we're doing this in an environment that is not 100% controlled the way that it was before, all of the COVID started to happen. So they check through that to make sure that we know that they know the expectations of them. Then for our sellers, what we have set up is, if the house is occupied, we have a checklist. And by the way, all of these things, I have them branded with the West Experience. I know Daniel has his branded with his. this is something that we're sharing with everybody. So if you are an agent listening to this, we have unbranded versions of this that we are more than happy to put out to you guys to share. So if these systems make sense for you, it's something that we're implementing and that we're happy to share with you guys. So what we're asking our sellers to do is to create an environment and make their home as user-friendly and as showing-friendly as possible with the absolute minimum amount of contact. So opening blinds, leaving the cabinet doors, closet doors and other spaces open, turn on all the lights and then tape their lights on so that no one's tempted to walk in and turn them off. Disinfect all of your high touch areas, have sanitizers, disinfectant wipes. If they're ill, not to show the house. So if they're not feeling good, we're just shutting off all showings and not putting anybody in a position where they might be compromised. And then letting them know that when the home is being shown, we'd like them to leave beforehand. Go for a walk, get in their car, go for a drive, hang out until the buyers have walked through the property. And then for what we're doing so that the buyer feels comfortable and the buyer knows what's going on, we're having them post this on the door, their front door when they leave. It says, this home has been sanitized for the clients of whatever the agent's name is, so they know that specifically that house was cleaned for them at the date and at the time that they leave. So they're letting the buyers know that everything has been wiped down. Please don't touch anything, and that the seller will address all of everything when the seller returns. And then again, out of common courtesy, asking if anyone in their party doesn't feel well to reschedule the showing. So CAR has come out with guidelines as well, and they actually need to be updated because they just came out last night that Daniel and I were reading this afternoon, is that no more than 3 people in a house at any given time. So the agent and then 2 buyers can walk through the house. If there is anybody else that wants to see the house, to have them wait outside in the car before they allow them to come in. Again, and we're asking for everybody to maintain, the 6-foot space and all those kinds of things. But what we really are trying to do, and something else too that Daniel and I talked about, if anybody out there has any other ideas that they think we can implement to make people feel safer, because people have different degrees of comfort. And we want to make sure that this plan is set up to where whatever level of comfort people have, we're creating an environment where they're able to take a look at a house that they may want to make their forever home.
Can I also share too, for a lot of the concerns that I have with clients, that like even the 8 that held off selling their house, which we completely understand, having this attached to the multiple listing service for agents, to be able to review and also sign this and sign also the new PEAD, talking about the coronavirus and just some just precautions. It's going to be something that Aaron and I are going to implement on all our listings before we set an appointment with the seller, that the agent submit that to us signed by them and their client. So that way they're acknowledging that they're going to abide by these safety precautions. So the real estate market is going to continue. We have to just be socially responsible to make sure we don't spread anything, right? But as real estate being an essential business, it doesn't mean that we could be reckless and careless. And it means that we're going to have to do a few extra steps to keep our clients safe. And agents will be as well. So if you're a seller and you're concerned with people coming in and out of your house, we totally understand. I think for the most part, having somebody video the property, or even yourself video it, send it to the agent, have them sign this checklist, so that way they're fully aware if they do come to your property, what to do to keep themselves safe and you safe is something that's very important. So we hope this helps, and we're going to share it with anybody that wants it, and hopefully it gets adopted through the whole market here.
Thanks, guys. We'll get those out, those forms. You can email the West Experience or the Del Real Group and ask for those forms, and we'll give them to our PMZ managers if you're with PMZ. And that marketing form that Aaron was speaking about earlier, we created that today, so that will go out in the morning to the PMZ agents. Sondra, there's all kinds of questions for you regarding refis. What if I miss my mortgage payments and so forth? But before I get to that, I just want to tease people with that a little bit. Daniel, can you, we have a question regarding pendings. Do you have any charts on pendings and what they're doing right now? How many homes are actually going into escrow?
Yeah, those are actually really good numbers. So I'll share those with you right now. I pulled them maybe an hour or so ago. Here, let me share it. Okay. You guys see this?
Yes.
Okay, here are the numbers. So how many homes active? 584. This is as of 3:07 p.m. today. There's 556 pending sales. We had 377 sold. This is I think the last 4 weeks. Yeah, the last 4 weeks, March. 160-day other, which was probably withdrawn properties. So to answer that question, there's 556 pending sales and 584 active.
Awesome. So things are still going into escrow. Sondra, talk to us about lending. What are rates doing with the coronavirus? What are, there's all, you miss a mortgage payment for 3 months maybe. What's the ramifications? People are watching their expenses right now. Is it a good time to refi? I'm hitting you with several questions at once, but just chat for a little bit to us about all that.
Okay. So, where the mortgage industry has been over the last month, the interest rates have been fantastic. They're still historic lows. They've gone up slightly, probably 0.25% on average, depending on loan type. But they're still, the average rates are still the mid 3s to high 3s for most loan products. So the rates themselves have stayed very low. There are some different program challenges and things that have changed a little bit. That you'll want to be in contact with your lender right away if you haven't been already, if you're out looking at property and maybe you've already been pre-approved, just to make sure that the product, the interest rate, all of that is still available for you. Can you hear me? Yeah. Oh, okay. I thought I saw mute. And just making sure that you're really in contact with your lender. Probably for different programs, the main concern is about employment and income for clients. So there's extra verifications that have to be done. The lender has to make sure that your job or your hours haven't been impacted by the virus. If you are on a leave, we actually still, with different ramifications on program requirements, can still use income if we have a return date. So the lenders are really doing their best to make sure that clients that are in escrow with a loan can get that closed. But each individual situation is definitely determined, as far as like the guidelines. The other thing is we're all very aware that there are a lot of people that immediately felt the impact economically from the illness. If you're in restaurant or different businesses, I have, some clients that are in dental care and the offices are all shut down. So those rules that are in place right now, depending on your servicer, the company that you're making the payment to, they have provisions and additional guidelines that can allow for a 3 to 6 month payment forgiveness type of situation where that payment then gets added on to the end of your loan. So it's not like you're missing a payment and you don't have to pay it. But for people that are really feeling the hardship already in economics or your job, or you've been laid off, the first thing you would want to do is get in contact with the lender, the one that you have you're making your payments to. The flip side is for those that maybe you're not feeling like your income's been impacted, but you want to look at maybe lowering your payment. We have a lot of clients that come in that haven't done a mortgage checkup or review in 2, 3, 4 years. Maybe the rate you got at the time was higher than what the rate is now, or maybe you had to have mortgage insurance on your loan because your home value didn't have the extra equity in there. So if you haven't re-examined your mortgage and your employment and income isn't impacted, it's a great time to just do, a free mortgage checkup and see if there's anything that you can do as you're adjusting your budget to maybe reduce your monthly payment as well.
Awesome.
Sondra, what are you seeing in, because I've heard and I've experienced as well that there are some products that are just kind of going away.
It's very true.
What have you seen as far as the guidelines that have changed with FHA, or how have they changed? And then with some of the products like jumbo and some of the other products for the upper end market, how have those changed and what are you seeing?
Yeah, so it's definitely the most challenging time in that industry. So what's happened without like a higher level review to not get too complicated, but some of the markets that aren't secured with standard financing types like jumbo, which means your loan amount is above a certain guideline, so they're not backed by the government, like other loan types are, almost overnight in a 48-hour window, we saw that market all but dry up, which is definitely atypical. I think that some of the squeeze that different mortgage products are feeling are because they're anticipating that servicers are going to start having to make payments on mortgages that they've lent out, but are not going to have payments coming in. And yet those servicers still have to make payments. They have to make interest payments on loans, tax and insurance payments. So I think when we see those shifts, the first products to go are always the ones that they don't have a stimulus package to fill in those gaps as of yet, unless or until the Fed makes different, requirements. And so the thing that goes away first are the non-agency products, which are anything above a certain loan amount, and then a lower credit score requirement. So immediately overnight, people that service loans get to have extra rules in place as far as credit scores and things like that to decide if they want to buy a mortgage. Because if your credit score is lower, it could increase the chances that you won't make a mortgage payment. So also almost overnight, different loan product credit scores. We went to bed with one credit score requirement, and the next day we saw some go 20, 30, 40 points higher. So that market, I know we're definitely seeing some of that. And then the third level are the products where there's down payment assistance. So if you think about it, it's basically any loan type where whoever's going to take payments on that has an increased chance that you may miss a payment. So if you're doing a loan where maybe you're coming in with very little money, they would anticipate that you're more likely to not make a payment. So those down payment assistance programs have come out with extra rules on top of extra rules on top of extra rules, which have just about left those programs unusable at this moment. So I think it's really important to say that, it is April 1st and this is where we are today. So if you find yourself as a buyer in limbo, it's very unlikely that this is going to be like our forever market, but it's a very good time to get in contact with your lender, because maybe your lender can help you with the plan to get your credit score up, or we can have a plan to save additional money or help you with your budget or kind of fix some of those, challenges if you're a buyer that's feeling that in this market.
Great. We'll probably jump back to you, Sondra. This is one of our kind of prepared questions, and I see it on the screen here. People are asking about your current escrows. Andy, Aaron, Daniel, what are you seeing? Are you seeing delays? I mean, Sondra could even touch on this from the lending side. What are we seeing as far as delays or things falling out of escrow? People maybe lost a job or had a change in their finances. How's that affecting you? Or how are you saved? Are there any of these salvageable? What are you guys seeing day to day? Any of you can take that.
Go ahead, Andy.
So it's different, I guess, case by case. I have seen several transactions, families that did have, a change in their income, whether their employer cut down their hours or they had to go on unemployment because of the coronavirus pandemic that we're experiencing. So that unfortunately did take them out of the market for the time being. There are other families that, that are being able to overcome the obstacles, but I think it's really coming down to a case by case basis. But a lot of it is affecting it. So I think the biggest thing right now is having communication, like Sondra was saying, with your loan officer, staying in communication, and having patience, over everything. As you guys are seeing, we're getting updates on a daily basis, sometimes hourly, sometimes daily. So just bear with us as we're trying to kind of overcome all the barriers that are being put in front of us as well.
Yeah, and if we want to be transparent and look at the numbers, we'll tell you. I mean, we had 5 properties fall out of contract in the last 7 days. We had 5, right? Did you have 6, Aaron? So and out of those, I think we'll be able to save 2 of those. One is going with another lender that's going to have different underlayments, and then the other one is for other reasons. I think they might be able to sell that one too. But we also had 8 new opens that came up, right? So the biggest thing I tell you guys is, like Andy said, is have constant communication, not only with your agent, but the lender and the seller, and just show a lot of grace right now, right? Because lenders are doing the best they can. They don't have, like, believe me, they don't want to put things in escrow just to fall back out. Agents aren't doing all this work for no reason. Buyers aren't wasting anybody's time, but there's just a lot of changes. So the biggest thing, if you're an agent and you're on this call, when you're talking to another agent, just show a lot of grace and just say, okay, how can we think through this together? Is there any other way to assist these clients to get to the end result, which is, either purchasing or selling a house?
And to me, I kind of want to step back and take a little bit more of a global view of this. I think, and I'm sure everybody on the panel would agree, that the majority of cases that we have of people falling out, and there may be reasons, but it's fear. That's the reason that they're falling out of escrow, is because they just, when you don't have information, you go to fear. And that's part of the problem with, with this whole coronavirus thing, is that you can listen to 5 different, people, and you're getting 5 different pieces of information, but they all are based in bad news and fear. And so a lot of what we've been dealing with when people come to us and want to cancel, everybody gets grace, because at the end of the day, it's whatever is right for them is right for them. But a lot of times they just don't have the information, or they haven't looked at it from a global perspective, because, we all live in our own little bubble of what our world looks like. And when someone pops that bubble or someone shakes it, if you don't have any outside perspective, that is the end of the world. I know agents that I've talked to that have literally said, I'm not coming out of my room until they cure the coronavirus, because they don't have any information as far as how they feel they can get past it. So a lot of the deals that are falling out of escrow, I think we were able to say 4 of the 6, because once they stepped away from the ledge and kind of looked at the big picture, it wasn't as bad as what they thought it was, and so they decided to move forward. And truthfully, one of them was because their credit score wasn't high enough, so we did have to shop it to another person. But that's the thing that I'm seeing, and I'm sure all of these other guys are seeing as well, just nationwide in the real estate market and everywhere, is that because nobody has any statistics. Daniel showed statistics. That gives you a little bit of peace of mind, because that it's not like 2008, right? But there isn't any real hard statistics that give information to where people can see an end to this. And I think that's one of the reasons why there's a lot of tumultuous activity in the market, is because people just don't know when this is going to end. It could be 3 weeks, it could be the middle of June, and so they're just trying to figure out how to navigate that in a way that they can feel comfortable moving forward. But at the end of the day, we've got rates that are at 3.5% or 3.75%. Home prices are statistically where they're supposed to be. I mean, if you took a graph and you went 1930 to 2020, and I think it's 6.5%, or I can't remember what it is, and you just go like this, where we are today is almost at the exact intersection of what that is. I mean, we're priced where we're supposed to be. We're in a housing shortage. We're in a fundamentally sound market. If you think of the people that bought in 2005, in 2007, everybody was like, you are crazy for keeping your house. But here it is in 2020, they've paid 15 years off of their mortgage, and housing prices are higher than they were in 2005. And so if you're buying real estate, it's always a long-term gain. I mean, it's always something that when you buy a home, you should be planning on staying in it for 6 or 7 or 10 years. And no matter what happens over the course of the next few weeks, it's a fundamentally sound decision to buy the home that you're going to live in for a long time.
Can I share something real quick on that too? And then that's it. Because
can you take about a quarter of the time Aaron did, because we have a lot of questions.
That'd be quick.
Okay.
Oh my gosh, I'm so sorry.
So last time when we had it, and this is why we're having this, because it's an open discussion. Like, we didn't know how this was going to go.
Right.
We didn't we're having conversations, and we just happen to have an intimate group with 97 people listening, right? So last time when it was the housing-led crash, what they did is they bailed out housing and they bailed out the banks. And they did that through printing monies called QE, quantitative easing, right? And they put $4 to $5 trillion into this market. And they just passed the bill that they're going to put 2 trillion. You'll probably see another 2. You'll probably be up to 4 to 5 trillion again. That's reality, right? That happened in '08, right? And that's happening now. And so what it does when you pump that much money into the market, it dilutes the dollar, right? So what you saw back in the day in '05 and '06, when you were able to say put a new roof on a house for $7,500, you have to pay nearly $14,000 for that same roof. Labor's gone up, materials gone up, everything's gone up. We don't really feel it because the value of the money has gone down slightly. So that's one of the biggest things that you're going to see right now. So rents were one of the biggest things that were affected by that. Back in even 2015 or 2005, 6, 7, rents were about $1,000 to $1,100 for a 3-bedroom, 2-bath, compared to where they're at now, where we're at $1,500, $1,600. Some neighborhoods are $2,000 to $2,100 a month in rent. So the cost to live is more expensive. So if you're starting to see that now, they're pumping money into the system now, and they're going to probably do it a couple more times. Where do you think, or how much do you think it's going to cost you to put that new roof on, or to go get a sandwich, or for gas, or for rent, right? So that's something that's just reality. We just got to look at it, and it's just look at data and see where the market takes us. So that's all I have to say.
Awesome. Let me get to a few questions. Sondra, we got a question for you regarding underwriting and getting buyers pre-approved now. Is now the time, to overcome multiple offer challenges in some cases that they'll be facing once they're approved? How far down the line should a buyer go with a lender right now?
I mean, I would in general say the time to get pre-approved, even if you're not ready today, is really 90 days before the window you even want to start looking. There's a lot of times where clients could be doing things either credit-wise or income or saving money that if they met with a lender ahead of time, we know the guidelines that would help ease that transaction or give them more options down the line. So I would absolutely say if you feel like spring, summertime, or even later in the fall, it's always a good idea to run the numbers, because often clients have no idea what payments would be or how much they would even qualify for.
Okay, along the same lines, a lender told one of our agents recently that they should maybe wait as a requirement. The requirements are changing, so changing daily. Are you seeing anything that buyers should wait on, or should they just?
Yeah, it would depend on the individual client. So the squeeze is really like a certain credit score range and under. That's the segment of the population that's feeling the change, or a loan amount that's out of agency, like a loan amount guideline. For a client who has 3 or 5% available in down payment and a 680 plus credit score, there haven't been any changes that have been implemented or any that they're even talking about that would hit that segment of the population.
This specific buyer's credit score looked like it was 790. So that sounds like
totally good.
Weird,
I mean,
weird info.
We have a client like that just got their offer accepted, and the questions are changing. The listing agent called me and wanted to know, with the buyer's permission, what the client did as a profession, how recently had I validated income. So some of that, like you're saying, Aaron, like fear, usually when you have the facts and the information behind it, and we can all just have transparency in those conversations. And if we have clients that are a little bit borderline, that they're in those programs that if they went away tomorrow, there's not a backup plan, then those are the clients that we should be helping to maybe mature them to the next level of qualification, so they're not stuck in that segment if that program drops off.
I think we had a question, if someone's looking to buy in the next 6 months, what advice? You kind of covered that, get pre-approved now. Yeah. 90 days out, you said? 90
days out or more. I mean, really, people get concerned about credit score inquiries. If you're working with a lender, they pull one credit report and then you pull another one in 6 months, your credit score is not going to be impacted. Like, knowledge is power in all of it. And a lot of times buyers don't know what they don't know until they find that dream house, and then they're trying to make it work.
Great. Another question for interview, actually. What questions should we be asking of buyers and lenders when choosing an offer to accept? With low inventory, we're seeing multiple offers even today. So how are you guys deciding which offer to choose in today's climate?
Well, I think the sellers have the ultimate decision to make there, but I think what I'm starting to see on our end is, for the buyers that I represent that I've submitted offers on in the last week, I would say at least half of those listing agents have reached out to the loan officers, like Sondra was saying, to ask in regards about employment, job security, because I think that's the biggest issue that we're seeing with transactions that are falling apart. Is a lot of it is loss of employment or loss of income. So I think that is becoming the new normal. So preparing, our home buyers and even the sellers, for asking those right questions. And again, that's where the communication is going to be key between all parties involved, the two agents, if there's two, the loan officer, the home buyer, the home seller as well.
Right.
Yeah. And in escrow, like silence is never good in escrow, like in general. So I feel like we all have this ability to over communicate to all parties and just keep everybody really informed. Like maybe something changes, and the quicker we can pull a trigger and make decisions, if it's a program change or something needs to be done, we can't just be sitting hoping that it corrects itself in the next week or doing an escrow period for a buyer, because then we're putting a seller, in jeopardy too. And often we have a lot of transactions that are dependent on the next one closing, and one in the middle that doesn't close, obviously could impact other people as well. So I just think we have a great opportunity to really overly communicate with each other and, and work together to get these files, resolved for the clients that we're representing.
Awesome. Go ahead, Aaron.
Go ahead. No, the number one complaint from the National Association of Realtors about realtors is a lack of communication.
Mm-hmm.
It always every year, it always has been, it always will be. And it's the one thing that, creates relationships, helps your clients get their offer accepted. It's communication. And so when we're looking at an offer that's coming in, if the agent reached out to us before they wrote the offer, if the agent followed up to make sure we got the offer, if the agent told us about their clients or sent us the information on their lender, I mean, those are all things that show that that's a professional on the other side. And so it's all about communication, and the more communicative the people are on both ends of it, the smoother it goes. And so that certainly is a factor. And I'm sure Daniel and his team too, that the buyer has a big deal part of it, but the confidence we have in the buyer a lot of times depends on the professionalism of the agent that's representing the buyer too. So I mean, it's everything at this point. It's not just, oh, that's a great buyer. It's like, okay, how do we know that's a great buyer? Because the agent is a great agent, and that agent's not going to represent someone who's not a great buyer. And so there's a whole lot of factors that go into that when we see an offer.
We have a question from a potential seller who's looking to upsize, and with inventory being so low, is it smart to put my home on the market now? They're fairly picky in what they're looking for, it sounds like, and they're worried if we put the house on the market today, it might be hard to find a replacement property. Somebody want to talk about the contingent on replacement property options for this gentleman?
Go ahead, Daniel.
The beauty about a contingency sale is they're contingent, so you marry them together. So we do a ton of them, and we tell the client the goal is for you not to be homeless and not to own two houses, right? So the way that you would, and you talk to your agent about that, but the way that you do it is putting your home on the market. And if you do get a buyer for it, then you have the buyer wait until you find a suitable replacement home. You ask for 30 days. If you can't find a home in 30 days, then you readdress it with them. So if you can't find a replacement home, you could always say, you know what, I'm just not going to do it and take a step back. So that's the beauty about the contingent sales is, as a seller, you're especially if you're putting the home on the market first, you're in full control of that whole situation. It's
actually an ideal time to do that, really, because you get a buyer locked in for your home and go home shopping. A lot of people are doing it the other way around. They go looking for a home and they're writing an offer contingent on them selling their home. They're doing it backwards. So it's much wiser to get your home on the market first. You're not going to be homeless if it's done right. Make it contingent on you finding a replacement property, as Daniel just said, and you'll be covered.
There's two ways to do it. Go ahead. It's a reactive way and a proactive way. So the reactive way is that, okay, you fall in love with the house and then you try to negotiate with that seller, and you're negotiating in a position of not a lot of power because you don't have your home up for sale yet. You're like, hey, can you accept my offer? But I want to sell my house. And they're like, well, I'm going to take my home off the market to give you an opportunity. So they put contingencies in place to make you rush everything. When you get an offer from a buyer, you might not negotiate it the right way, like even the amount of days of possession, delivery possession, or rent back, so you don't have to move twice. So the best way to do it is to retain control of it by first putting your home on the market, selling your home, putting the contingencies on the buyer, and negotiating it the right way, like give me 7 days to move after the close of escrow, making sure that deposits and the contingencies are lined up the same, because you're not going to sell and close usually on the same day. Sometimes that happens, but usually you lose a day. So what, you're going to be homeless for a day. So the best way to do it is to retain control of the situation the whole way, is to put your home on the market first, then put the contingencies on the buyer for you to go shopping. If you can find a replacement home, then fantastic. You trigger everything at once. You negotiate with that seller. Hey, I need to sell my home, but good news is my buyer's set. They're ready. You tell me yes today, and today everything starts. So it's a stressful situation, buying and selling. You put a market like this, it might even become a little more stressful. So the best way to do it is just to retain as much control as you can of the situation.
Thanks. Aaron,
and
go ahead.
my answer would be, it depends. Because this market is in such flux, it depends on what it is you're looking for. It depends on how saleable is your home and what is the price range of your home. How many buyers are there for your home right now? So I think it's one of those ones that everything that they said is correct, but before and I'm sure Daniel's the same way, before we would tell you to put your home on the market, we're going to sit down and we want to find out what your end game looks like and what it is you're trying to buy, so that we can help you make the right decision, or give you the information to where you can make the right decision for you. So go ahead. That's it. I'm done.
Yeah, we got that. We've covered that. We only have a few minutes left. We haven't covered two topics that we have a question on. You guys all own rental property. Have you had any tenants tell you they're not going to pay rent? No
I've
issue?
had a few people contact me. I do have several properties that I have myself and that I manage for the family as well. And I've had a few tenants of mine reach out and ask to see if I'd be willing to work with them, as some of them did lose some income, and had to go on unemployment. So it's a matter of communication, even with the rent side of it. I'll work with them, and we'll figure out a game plan. But a lot of it kind of, again, comes back to the communication side of it.
And then what about investors? You guys all work with investors. How are you handling investors? What information are you telling them today?
Well, it kind of depends. You can dive in a little bit deeper on that. I'm an investor myself. I just finished closing escrow on an apartment complex that I acquired here locally. If the numbers make sense, absolutely go for it.
Go ahead.
Earlier is a long-term investment.
Mm-hmm.
And for me, it's, again, if you're playing the long game, which most investors are, if it makes business sense, you pull the trigger.
Yeah, and there's a lot of investors right now, and maybe you're an agent that you've sold a home to an investor. It is going to be turbulent for them here in the next month or so, because whether people will be able to pay rent or not, so it's going to be difficult. So I suggest you guys reach out to your clients if they're investors and just talk to them, see if there's anything you could do. I know there's a lot of resources out there that will help subsidize, even for the tenant, checks coming out, and also for the investor to help out with that. Of course, the government's putting money into it and everybody's in it together. So just make sure you reach out to the investors, because the next couple of months might be a little rocky.
Mm-hmm.
Sondra, with the rates, there being a little bit, things being volatile, with the rates, are there programs that will allow buyers to float rates? It's a question being asked.
And people often will ask me when the best time to lock a rate is. Usually when you're trying to search and seek the bottom of a market, you usually don't know until it started to correct, right? So you should generally lock in your interest rate when the loan makes sense. If it's the monthly payment that you want and the scenario works for you, I suggest most clients lock rates. Most lenders, or a lot of lenders, have some allowances if the market takes a tremendous drop and you're locked, where they have some room in there to potentially lower your rate. So for most clients, I would tell them that if the loan and the rate look like it's favorable to you and it makes sense, I recommend locking it in. Of course, make sure you've done your due diligence and make sure the lenders run the calculations for you, that's enough savings and how much you're paying for that savings. But trying to float a rate, especially in a market that moves even sometimes within the same day, 3 or 4 market rate changes we've seen recently, the best time to lock it in is when that payment and that loan makes sense for you.
Hey, what are you guys seeing with appraisers, home inspectors, so forth? You know, some are not willing to go out and to take a look at the property during the time with the shelter in place. Some
I
are.
can tell you that we just had a call on that. The only time in my whole career where we've had these provisions where every single loan type has some room for even FHA, VA, and conventional and USDA, where depending on the accessibility of the property, where they're allowing exterior inspections. Now it does come with some additional, the appraiser is still certifying the condition of the property. So in those cases, they're wanting to see whatever information that the agent may have regarding the interior of the property. For VA, for example, the agents are certifying that there's no termite and just some different verbiage that they're wanting, you know, from the agent's perspective. So even loan types themselves being very aware of the spread of the virus and wanting to be aware and protecting the seller, the agents, and the appraisers themselves have a whole lot more latitude, the most I've ever seen as far as inspections.
How about appraisals? Are you guys having any appraisal issues today? And how, if so, how are you negotiating those?
You mean
No.
home values?
Yeah, I haven't had that many. Daniel, do you?
We get them all the time. So that's just part of the market where, you know, sellers, whenever there's that low of inventory, if you go back to the beginning of our state of the market, when you got that low of inventory, people are pushing market. So yeah, we fight for every buck. At this point, when we're dealing with sellers, you fight for every dollar right now. Appraisers they're in a very difficult position, right? They were through this, you know, through the HVCC and the regulations. Now they have to answer to an underwriter. They have to bracket everything through Fannie and Freddie and all that as well. So it's just appraisal issues have been an issue with us for the last 5 years, really, since inventory dropped and it became a seller's market. The big thing with that is you solve it by talking. So you guys, you know, you talk with the agent, you talk with the buyer, you talk with the seller, and you kind of find a way to meet in the middle or just make some kind of an agreement. And sometimes it works and it's great. And sometimes you put the home back on the market.
Great. Regarding interior inspection, is there a form that will allow the buyers to recourse if the inspector is unable to get in the home?
Not that is there, Daniel?
Yeah, so the new COVID addendums that just came in allow that. So the COVID, if you want me to bring it up, I could bring it up on the screen right now. But the new COVID addendums allow for extensions if any delays from the seller and the buyer. So some of the concerns the buyers have is like, well, what happens? There's a lot of uncertainty in the middle of I can't get all my inspections in or my appraisal. Underwriters are behind because of the fact that people are starting to work from home. There's a lot of technical issues there. So that addendum that the Association of Realtors just came out with actually has a line item of that asking for extensions of inspections.
I think what she was talking about was recourse after the house is closed. So if they accept the condition of the home, is there recourse for it? And I don't believe there is. We're always going to advise you to either hold off from closing if you're not comfortable with the condition of the home, or because if you move forward and close, it's your home. If they didn't disclose something to you that's a material fact, then that could be an issue, and that could be something where there could be recourse. But if they disclose everything that they are currently aware of and you move forward without doing the inspections, then it would be very hard for you to be able to get recourse on something like that.
So was the question if she wasn't able to do inspections, or he or she wasn't able to do inspections because of the current situation?
Yes, correct. And then closed escrow.
And then the closed escrow.
Both those, you guys both, people have asked the question. You answered anyway, Daniel. So we covered both those things. We've been going at it for over an hour. You guys have some final nuggets to leave everybody. You want to start? One final thought. Aaron? Why don't you start?
Well, you know, for all of us that are up here on the panel, I mean, Daniel, Andy, Sondra, myself, you, we've been through this before. It was different, but it's the same, right? We went through 2008 where I had 8 escrows going and 7 of them fell out in a day. So everything that we're navigating right now, one of my mentors says, principles don't change, tactics do, right? Our job is to serve our clients in whatever environment that we're giving in a way that we're looking out for their best interests. So our tactics are changing. That's why we're coming up with these systems. So, but the reality is that this too will pass. Things will go back to whatever the new normal looks like. And, just moving forward, if you're a buyer or a seller, make sure you're working with someone who is a professional, because in a changing market like this, working with someone who really knows what they're doing and can navigate these changes makes your life so much more simple.
Great. Thanks, Aaron. Sondra?
I would say just that whether you're an agent or you're a buyer or seller, whatever your situation is, that just know that we're all here to be an advocate for you and to be solution minded. And we're really trying to do our best with what we all can control. And so just that you're not alone, and we're all going to get through this all in community together. And we're just here to support you in any way we can, and not just real estate related. If you have a need and you can't get groceries, or you don't have the ability to drive, or you need resources, we're all pretty connected in a lot of different capacities. And we're here as a community to step up and just really unite around real need that we have.
Andy, what about you?
I would say, for everybody, and this pertains to everybody, and I think everybody kind of touched bases on this, is really a good time to kind of get your budget in the line. Whether you're a realtor, whether you're a home buyer, a home seller, just get your finances in order now, and be willing to communicate, and don't be scared to ask questions. If the person that you're asking doesn't know the answer, hopefully they're going to be upfront and truthful with you, and they'll find somebody that can find the answers for you. And don't let fear hold you back. For me, I always try to put a positive spin on things. And for me, fear is forget everything and run. And if you really think about it, that's what we tend to do when fear kicks in. It's our human instinct, our protective instincts that come in. So don't let fear hold you back, but take this time that you have during the shelter in place to really, get your budgets in line, get your budgets in order for your family.
Right. Daniel?
Well, we're doing this from home, right? So you guys are getting a quick view of what all our houses look like. So we're in this with you guys. There's big companies right now. I'll name a couple. Amazon is one, Google, Disney, Mattel, Harley, Facebook. You know what happened with all those homes? They were all started in a house. They're all started in a garage, right? So we're all stuck at home now. So I challenge you guys just to make magic happen while you're at home, right? And if it's not starting the next big company, but just start with making magic with your family and your kids. Find a way to just make a magical moment while you're at home. Don't let this time go to waste. Don't have any regrets about being at home with your kids right now. So, I'm at home. I'm trying to do as much as I can from home. I know everybody else is, but that's what I would leave everybody with.
I have one more.
Good.
That's great. And before we leave, Aaron Maria Estrada says, thank you for accepting her offer last week. So,
you're welcome, Maria. One more thing, and this is real quick, but we did this panel because this is something that there needs to be real information that's given out about the real estate market. All of us are really here to serve our community and the other agents that are out there. So if any of you have any questions for us, or you just want to talk to someone and talk you off of a ledge, I know Daniel, Andy, Sondra, myself, Ben even are all here for you. So
even if you're an agent and you're stressed out, like, call. I mean, I've been on the phone with Aaron a ton this last 7 days, and
he has talked me off the ledge so much.
Thankfully, we're all
we all need it
from home.
Yeah.
We all now have a couch in our offices.
Yeah,
we're working
this
from home.
is the new normal. Yeah.
Hey, why don't you guys, each of you, real quick, give your email address and phone number in case anybody wants to reach out to you for the forms you talked about, listing, buying, just connecting with you however they want. Get pre-approved. Sondra, why don't you go?
Go ahead. Let's do that. That's fine.
Do that. Okay.
You have another idea, Daniel, with it?
Yeah, go ahead, Daniel.
I was just gonna say, just put it in the comments so that way people could. Recordings that'll be recorded. Put it in the comments.
Perfect. Yeah.
Yeah, that sounds too easy.
That would probably be the best way to do it. And if you guys want to see another one, like this is tomorrow, everything might change, right? So we're taking this day by day. Next week, it might be completely different. If you guys want to see us do this again, drop a comment, either whether you're watching it at a watch party on Aaron's page, our page, PMZ's page, Sondra, or if you're watching right here, drop us a comment, and we'll do this again next Wednesday and just talk, real problems, real market. It's a new real. So we're trying to figure it out with you guys. We don't have all the answers, but we're doing the best we can.
That's right.
Thanks everyone for joining us today, and enjoy your evening. Have a great one.
All right, guys. See ya.
Okay,
Yeah.
bye.